Hello, everyone. Welcome to the July 23rd, 2025 meeting of the Urban Design Commission. My name is Tyler Holmes, and I am the chair of the commission. When called on, applicants and speakers will come to the front of the podium to speak. Only one person at a time should come to the podium. Please do not approach the podium until it has been vacated by previous speakers. Please speak into the microphone and identify yourself and provide your address for the record when you begin speaking. Address your comments, questions, and testimony to the commission. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. It is unnecessary to repeat testimony previously given by others. Citizens may address the commission on agenda items by responding to the chair's call for speakers during discussion on each item and signing the speaker's log at the podium. All comments must be relevant to the item. The chair or presiding officer may be in his or her discretion prohibit a person from addressing the committee and/or remove the person from the council chambers. If that person commits any disorderly conduct or disruptive behavior, please see the agenda for more information about these requirements. If you parked in the Sheridan Walker parking garage north of John Rex Elementary School or the Arts District parking garage immediately south of City Hall, staff can provide you with a validation ticket. The agenda and documents are located at okc.primegov.com/public/portal. You would then select the Urban Design Commission meeting, then click on an agenda item, and the relevant documents will show up. Please see the agenda for additional information regarding the meeting procedures and review process. Keith?
Holmes,
Here?
Apatone,
Here.
Cal,
Here.
Carnico,
Here.
Dixonoso,
Here.
Peoples,
Here.
we have quorum.
All right, we have quorum. So approval of minutes from May 28th, 2025. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
And all right, minutes are approved. Today we have no cases withdrawn and no continuance requests. And on the consent docket, we have one item. Do we have a motion on the consent docket?
I can make a motion to approve the consent docket.
All right, we have a second. Consent docket is approved. All right, and moving for cases for individual consideration, let's start with UCDA 24-0012 at 1229 Northwest 26th Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This application was continued from the May 28th meeting, and as we couldn't pull a quorum for the June 25th meeting, it's been carried over to today's meeting. At the May 28th meeting, the commission continued this item to that June meeting at the request of the applicant, and with the knowledge that we had a very short turnaround to have that information available and ready to write a report for the June meeting. They did submit some revised plans, but the plans that were submitted at that time, staff still believes they did not fully address the concerns that were expressed by the commission at the May meeting. And the staff report outlines our concerns about these issues, and I'm going to kind of really briefly run through those for you right now. First of all, there's been some signage added to the renderings that are in your agenda packet, but they're not necessarily reflected on the elevations. The applicant acknowledged this and said with the rush that was on to get the package in, they didn't have time to do it on both documents. Without that information in detail on the elevations with all the measurements and dimensions that are required, we're unable at staff level to determine whether or not the signs are compliant with the code. So if there's any action by the commission today to recommend approval of this project, it would have to come with a recommendation or a condition of approval that the applicant provide those necessary documents on the elevations to enable us at the staff level to review and approve the signage. Another main concern that we expressed and talked about at length in the staff report is the building materials. One thing that we have in this agenda packet that we haven't had until this agenda packet is an example or samples of the type of concrete tilt-up panels that are proposed with the construction of this building. And essentially what we're talking about is unfinished exposed concrete tilt-up panels, and we feel, staff still feels or believes that this is inappropriate for the site in that it is conspicuously inconsistent with materials used on buildings in the vicinity, but more importantly, it is a dreary and unwelcoming material to be used along a pedestrian streetscape on one of the city's major streets. This is a material that is more appropriate for an industrial warehouse building as opposed to a grocery store. The other significant concern that we expressed in the staff report was the absence of a pedestrian entry on the west elevation facing Classen Boulevard. While staff acknowledges the need for this building to include a pedestrian access at the east oriented to the parking lot, that does not absolve the applicant from or ignoring the need to provide a front access at the Classen frontage on the west elevation. The UD guidelines call for it. No buildings along this section of Classen Boulevard do not have a front access, and there is a danger of setting a precedent that would be quite undesirable in staff's opinion. As designed, the west elevation is the rear of the building, and while the applicant has made an effort to dress up the rear of the building, it is still the rear elevation facing a primary arterial street. So with those comments and those concerns expressed by staff, we conclude our presentation, prepared to respond to any questions the commission may have.
Any questions for staff? Okay. Applicant?
Hello, everyone. It's Holly Hunt, Sam Gresham Architects at 400 Northwest 23rd Street. I see some faces that were here last time we talked about this project and some that aren't, so I'm just, again, going to give a quick recap. The orientation of this building, while unique, it is very much in keeping with many of the design guidelines in the urban design overlay district, including urban density, including bringing that putting parking lots behind buildings as a way to create a very beautiful streetscape. Since you saw this last, we have really tried to make this a more comfortable, inviting pedestrian space, including much landscaping. We've got benches. We've included some murals on the building, including some windows on that lower level. We've also lowered the awning, something that I met with staff and discussed the rhythm of the fenestration. So lowering that canopy, as you can see, it aligns with the building next door, and it is a common break point for a lot of the fenestration along this street. So we feel like, we've also lowered the window seals of the larger windows that you see facing Classen. This again just helps to create that that connection with the street for pedestrians and passersby. But a lot of what we had to work with on the site was existing, the parking lots existing, the existing grocery store that will be renovated as part of this project in the future. So we felt like this not only suited the urban design's intent of creating a nice urban density. We also feel like we've taken your comments from the commission and tried to implement them on these new sets of documents. And I'm happy to answer any questions, or we can discuss it further if you feel that's necessary.
I'll jump in.
Yes, please.
I was here before. I think
Yes.
you've made some marked improvements. I want to piggyback on one of the comments that the staff provided. The images that you've got at the front of the tilt-up look really nice. I've seen a lot of tilt-up. It never quite looks that way.
Well, we actually know for a fact that the pictures I gave you, they are the same builder. His name's David White. He's here in Oklahoma. And what he has is these giant steel panels that they actually pour them in. So that is the finish that we'll get. It looks exactly like EFIS. It is a fine, almost pebble finish, but unlike EFIS, it has a little bit of variation in the color. So we have some lights and some darks. So instead of it being what you think of like when you see a concrete slab that isn't brushed, I mean, this is going to have a finish just like EFIS, which is one of the approved materials for this area. And it's actually on that building next to it. Again, it's not something, like if we felt so strongly that this material is not working, it's a material we can paint, certainly. It's a material we can put a coat of stucco on if you all felt like that's necessary. We feel like it's a beautiful finish, and it's just an additional step that requires maintenance to paint it and or do any kind of stucco. We feel that with the metal canopies and the architectural composite metal panels, which are a wood finish, that will help warm up the building and give a lot more variety, as well as the fenestration, the openings being glass. You know, you're not just going to have a giant wall of concrete. It's broken up quite a bit. So the overall finish that you get will look very much like EFIS or stucco.
So in 30 years in architecture, I've done 2 projects out of tilt-up. The variation that we got from pour to pour was pretty drastic. So I have concerns, and in both instances, we did put some sort of paint on them to try to homogenize that.
Did everyone see the picture? It was, Keith had it up earlier, but it was the example of that building. Yes, it's here. This
I'm
one.
looking at page 2.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, and so you can see that variation. Again, if it gets wet, it'll get a little darker and then it'll dry. That's what you're seeing here because, of course, I tried to wait for a dry day in June. It was very, very hard because we had so much rain. But so that little bit of variation, yeah, that does exist. Again, if paint's the cure, I think our owners are more than amenable to.
Well, I don't want to play architect on your project, but I would. I'm concerned about the consistency and the look and feel of what you're going to get with just that raw concrete. Again, there's an image where it says example of proposed tilt-ups concrete modern design. That looks pretty cool. Never have I seen that, not even in precast that's done in a shop. So I'm a little bit concerned about that raw concrete just sitting there.
And as far as the staff's concerns about signage, yeah, I just need to get him more dimensions and drawings on these and run those calculations again for that quick turnaround. But I am happy with a condition to submit all of that to staff. I mean, Mike's probably sick of me by now, but I would be happy to get all that to him.
I have a question. The concrete, that's not really bothering me so much, but I am concerned, I'm just questioning about a design aesthetic that does not provide a door from class and entry is baffling my mind. Help me understand
Well, on
that.
the floor plan, as you can see, the refrigerated units will be placed along that wall, and it being a big, large open space, it's really a security issue on Classen. We feel that a door there would just create an area that could be broken in. All of people who come here to shop, they're likely bringing their vehicles and need to unload and offload groceries. And it's not like you can pull up to Classen and park there and unload your groceries. So the reason for that is very, very much about the function of its use. And while we do have a door, there is an exit door. You can see it in this rendering. There is a door, an exit door there, and there is also a door on the south side. So there's doors, but in this location, it just doesn't really work for the interior layout, nor would it work for the users of the building. And again, I have shown an option with a door on that side, and the owner just really feels like it's going to be an issue for him in the future running this business. So again, we're pushing for no door on that side, seeing that it will never be used and likely will serve no function other than to create a dangerous security issue.
I do understand it from a utility and function, and I've been a business owner and a developer, so I get both sides of that. From a design aesthetic, it's yuck. But I do understand you've got to run a business.
Well, and that's why I kind of dressed up that side to look and feel like the front facade. It doesn't feel like a back of a building to me. At least that's not what the majority of grocery stores look like on the back. So we've done a great deal as a way to try to avoid having a secondary or even backside of this building. And that was our design solution to that.
And there's not currently a door on the west side, right? I think it's Golden Phoenix, maybe. But
Yes,
there's
so-
no entrance to the grocery store on the
That's
west
correct.
side. Yeah,
That's correct.
currently.
And currently, in this rendering, you can see this is the entry for the Golden Phoenix restaurant here. And so there is a little bit of parking there. It's non-compliant parking that's existing that we're very gracious to have been able to keep. But that's the only, I mean, there may be 8 or 10 parking spaces on that side. And they're mostly used for to-go orders and things like that.
For clarification, I did want to point out that that single door that's on the left side of the west elevation, that's a single door for employees only, correct?
No, it's just a egress.
I thought it,
exit.
doesn't it access the mezzanine floor?
It does, but it accesses both. There's also a door into that corridor. For fire purposes, we have to enclose the stair, but there are doors.
And then the door on the south elevation is an emergency exit only, it's not an entrance.
That's correct. It is a double door and it will be all glass.
I have a question and a comment as well. So I missed the last meeting regarding this project. I'm very happy to see development in the
Thank you,
Asian
sir.
district, which is very dear to me. I'm also a property owner in the district. My observation in the past 5-7 years is that we grew a lot and we're running out of space, retails, or even elevated space. And this, I would consider this as one of the larger capital improvement to the district. And I'm hoping, my question is that I'm hoping that there's an opportunity that there may be more retail could be part of this. I see a lot of Classen frontage. I think everyone in town know where Chinatown is, right? And if there's an opportunity that we can, and this is obviously up to the owner developers, that offer some additional restaurant or retail space that.
I'm so glad
Perhaps,
you
yeah.
brought that up,
Yeah.
Commissioner.
And that leads to the left side where you left it blank, so I'm curious
Yeah.
about that.
Well, and that existing building, you know, I can't go into great detail on the drawings because that puts, obviously, the commission, the staff in a situation where they're approving something that's still in the future. But once this grocery store is built and we move everything over, we are along 26, so facing north, there will be new, I think we could fit 4 or 5 tenant suites that will front onto 27th. So, and then the rest of the building will become backstock for the new grocery store. So yes, it is the intent of the owners to develop more retail space and some potential new business opportunities in that existing building. And again, that, you know, the existing parking lot has a space to accommodate all these new business ventures. So again, the orientation of this building was maximizing the property lines, getting as much as we could while still functioning with the parameters that were existing on the site.
That's great. From a business owner, developer standpoint, I do agree. I think that would bring us the highest and best
Yes.
of use of real estate fronting class.
Yes, yes, yes.
I think it's improved a lot, and I like the comments we made. I can tell you made an attempt at all of it, and I like it. One of Michael's comments is the danger of precedent. I don't value that because it's site by site, and in this instance, we don't have grocery stores being built all through districts at this point. So the use this serves, it's community oriented. So this will actually bring people to the area more than most even retail places. So there's some aspects to that. I do think it could be interesting to look into other options, but I'm sure you exhausted a lot of those. The material on the outside, if you did EFS and it was all that versus this, I'm like, I don't know if EFS is what I consider a huge improvement, if any. And there's risk to doing that right or wrong. So I hope it's done the way it looks, and it just depends. I know it's different. There's quality construction and not quality construction. So
Percent.
that would be awesome if it looked the way that appears. And so, other than that, I mean, the murals, the signage in that, I think that is a huge component that makes this look a lot more like beautiful.
Thank you.
And so that's a huge condition in my mind, and definitely trusting Michael on that for
Percent.
getting that right. So I think you've done a good job at that. So making it smaller, less, I do think the community would really appreciate the way that that is emphasized.
Thank you so much.
So overall, I like it. That's my thought. Any more comments?
Just for clarification, I'm not advocating for EFS myself, but I still have issues with just that bare concrete. I think we're banking on a lot of unknowns, weather conditions being one of them, to influence how those panels look when they're finished. So,
I wish I could, because nobody cares more about the aesthetics of this building than me. So I can assure you it's not an issue. Is there maybe a way we could, as a condition, revisit this in the future? I mean, I just don't know how that works. If it becomes an issue in the future, I mean, we could always just paint it, or like I said, instead of EFS, I would not do EFS on this building. We would just direct apply a coat of stucco, almost like your finish coat, and that would basically have the finish of EFS, but without the foam and the fiberglass mesh that's behind it that makes it EFS. So, if that's the killer on this project, I mean, I just am so ready to move forward with this project. We've been doing it for years, so whatever it takes.
I don't want to call it a killer. I'm one voice. I will tell you that on one of the tilt-up projects I did, we did do, I don't know what it's called, but it's a top EFS coat.
Yes.
Just so we could get, it wasn't just a color issue, it was also, there were different textures and there was a little bit of pitting. So what the owner elected to do was put in that top coat of finish that has a little bit of silica, and that made a world of improvement. It was still a chore because of the oil
Yes, of
from the
course.
pans, but again, the two instances I've done it, it just never looked like
Yeah.
the renderings.
And I guess, again, the benefit here is knowing this tilt-up concrete contractor. He produces them right here. We've seen many, many of his buildings, and they do tend to be very consistent and I showed you that example just because that was one that he just completed, and so it's a relatively new building, and so that is very similar. It will be made in the same factory with the same big steel panels, so it will look very much like that. And, but if for any reason it didn't look good and those problems existed, certainly something like that could be applied, and that's a good thing about this material is being concrete, it's forever. It's a very, very durable and long-lasting material. Whereas things like EFS, they get hail damage. future problems. So again, direct applying a coat of paint or, a stucco finish is something that could be done in the future for aesthetic purposes. I really don't think it's going to be necessary. I think this is going to be a beautiful, beautiful building. And it helps, you can also see those rustication joints. Those are little reveals. It's almost like maybe a 2-inch gap or 1-inch gap. So that helps to break it up as well. And of course, we know concrete cracks. That's the purpose of those, so that it has those little fine hairline cracks that occurs in those places and never on the panel. So all of these things have been thought through. And again, adding the murals, adding more windows, adding more signage, we've really tried to break up that expanse of concrete as best as we can. So,
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that has anything to share? Okay. If we don't have any other questions, is anyone prepared to make a motion?
What would be the conditions again under which we'd have to make a motion? You mentioned there would be conditions. The signage.
And the artwork as well?
Yes,
Is that-
submitting any, let me scroll
As
to
a
it in the staff
condition?
report. You'd be submitting sign documentation, any additional artwork, murals, et cetera. Sorry, I'm frozen here. Michael, do you have the conditions handy if this is to be approved?
To approve the murals?
Oh, I've got it, hold on.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, we did, so if,
Exterior
what all did we need if they do make a motion to approve today?
Well, it would be based on the standard language that the project is in compliance with the standards of the urban design overlay, blah, blah, blah. And then there would be a condition that says that the applicant shall submit elevations with all the applicable dimensions and sizes and locations of all proposed signage so that staff, subject to review and approval of staff.
Okay.
right, because
That's-
those have
that's-
standard kind of guidelines as to how big they can be, and we'll be sure to be compliant, and I'll submit that to staff.
Right now, we don't really have any, nothing to go on to determine if they're even close on the signage or if they're over. So
Right.
it may be that when we get into that and have the level of detail that we need to look at it, that the signs might have to get smaller, we don't know. I mean, they are large elevations, so that should give them a lot of signage, because it's based on the percentage of the wall area that the sign is attached to. So the fact that you have a giant wall facing Class and on the east side as well, should give you plenty of signage. But there are maximum limits that could kick in, because I think the maximum for the entire building is 400 square feet of signage. So if you got 202 on the back, 210 on the front, you're going to be over.
The Chinatown supermarket is roughly 50 square feet as it sits now, so if that helps you to kind of gauge. So if they had to get smaller, it wouldn't be by a great deal.
So I think if we were to make a motion to approve today, it would be a motion to approve per the standard motion of approval for Urban Design Commission, and you don't have to read all of that off. We can get that from our kind of standard language, with the condition that all applicable documentation for signage and murals be submitted to staff prior to release of the certificate of approval. And then if what comes in either is not something that meets applicable guidelines and regulations, or if there's a significant change from what you all have seen today in what we ultimately get, then we would bring that back to you.
And there's one more condition, and that is the fact that they have to go to the Traffic Transportation Commission
Yep.
for all the proposed on-street parking improvements. So that would also be condition of approval B.
Yes. Okay.
And City Council, I'm sorry, also City Council.
Yeah, and that will be handled during permitting.
I could try. The chair can make the motion, right? I can't, okay.
all the standard documentation for signs and murals. Does that work? Yeah.
For the signs and murals be submitted for the COA, for the certificate of approval. B, this is going to pertain to the transportation.
B, that they, what is that standard motion? That they,
All the proposed on-street parking stalls and ADA stalls on Northwest 26th and Northwest 27th are subject to approval by the Traffic Transportation Commission and the City Council.
and you can just say
Wait,
per staff, what staff said.
per what staff said, what Michael Philbrick just said. And then you said, was there a C, Michael, as well?
No.
I think that was it.
Okay. I'd like to make that motion.
Do we have a second? All right, it is passed. Thanks, Holly.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, moving to the next item, we have UDCA-25-00008 at 1016 Northwest 24th Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an application for the proposed demolition of one structure and the construction of a duplex, a residential duplex at 1016 Northwest 24th Street, which is on the south side of Northwest 24th, just east of Northwestern Avenue. In the staff report, we've reviewed for you all the pertinent and applicable standards for demolition that exist within the Urban Design Overlay District. We've pretty much come to the conclusion that the building that is remaining there is in pretty bad shape. There's a engineering report in your packet that describes the deficiencies that are affecting this particular structure. And we've also arrived at the conclusion that the building is of no architectural or historical significance, and therefore we've recommended approval of the demolition of that structure. In addition, we've also reviewed the proposed plans for the duplex structure on site, found it to be in compliance with all the applicable development standards and regulations and guidelines that apply in this particular district, and therefore we're recommending approval of this application to the commission, and we're prepared to respond to any questions that the commission may have.
Any questions for staff? Do we have an applicant available?
We do. Mark Zitzow, Johnson and Associates. I think Michael pretty well covered it, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any questions, but my comment I'll make, the house is beautiful. I'm just kidding. No,
Architectural gem.
I support, I appreciate the pictures. I believe this is a substantial improvement, and I think it's fitting to what I believe people in the district probably would support.
I'd make a motion, but I don't think I'm allowed to.
Are there any other questions? Because if not, I'll put a motion out there.
Any other questions? I think we're ready for a motion.
Motion to approve the application on the basis that the project meets the regulations and guidelines of the Neighborhood Conservation District zoning ordinance as referenced in section C and D of the staff report.
Have a second?
I'll second.
right? It's passed?
I meant to vote yes.
All right, moving to the next item, we have UDCA-25-00013 at 904 Northwest 23rd Street.
Let you off either.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application for demolition of an existing structure at 904 Northwest 23rd Street. It's on the south side of Northwest 23rd, just west of Francis. Again, this is one where we took a look at the existing structure on site, made some assessments with it with respect to the applicable criteria for demolition in the Urban Design Overlay District. Very much like the last application, there are a series of structural deficiencies with this particular structure. The application or the submittal packet includes a copy of the engineering report that was prepared for this. Part of it shows a lot of trash and debris and rubble and whatever that can just be easily removed, but there are also interior structural issues that are impacting the building. And those are visible in some of the other photographs that are in the agenda packet. But in the end, after our assessment of the building and the fact that it's been substantially modified from the original design of the residential single-family house that it was when it was built in 1918, we've determined that it's not of any significant architectural or historical value, and determined that made a recommendation for the commission to approve this application. We're prepared to respond to any questions the commission may have.
I don't have any questions for staff. Is the applicant available?
Yeah, Mark Zitzow, Johnson & Associates, 20 Sheridan Avenue. Again, I think Michael pretty well covered it on this. We rezoned this property about a year and a half ago with the intent that these would be torn down in favor of a new urban mixed-use residential building. And I think some images were included in your packet to that regard, but that'll be a future project that comes before you. So happy to answer any questions on these.
I do have a question on the private parking versus public right-of-way parking. Do you have a count or information on that specific, if it's, or how, per unit, I guess?
So this application doesn't actually have anything to do with the parking. When we get to that point, we're happy to really delve into it. If you're talking about the street parking, it's public parking. Anyone can park there because we can't restrict that, but we would hope that tenants would also be able to enjoy it. But we can't put up any signage. If it is in the public right-of-way, it is public parking. We cannot put any restrictions on it.
Okay.
I know this is something that's going to come in front of us in the future, but did you say that you have already rezoned? Or
Yes.
You're going to?
Yeah,
So-
there was a SPUD approved, I don't know, what does it say?
I think it was like a year.
23, I think?
Year and a half ago.
So how many units are going to go on these lots now?
The final unit count hasn't been
Determined.
decided, but we had rezoned it to allow for the multifamily and commercial uses, and I think this board heard that, Planning Commission and City Council.
I've slept since then, brother. But I think that would be my only concern. Obviously, we are focused on density. I know that's not this application. I understand that, but continuity is critically important in our neighborhoods. And I don't even know, hopefully we get an opportunity to start listing like the neighborhoods that these homes or in these developments will be in. But yeah, that's, and I know it's not part of this application. It's just always a concern, the continuity of.
And I'll just note, because we had gone through the zoning, everyone within 300 feet of the application was notified, including Mesta Park. I think what's important to note, as 23rd Street develops, with the BRT right down the street, I would expect that you're going to see a lot more kind of mid-rise type of development, and this is exactly where you'd want it, on a major arterial, near public transit, close to downtown. So.
Got it. Yeah, I was getting ahead there because I saw the images, and then the intent I know is demolition. So I bring that up. It's not a comment, maybe. As it goes down, you just know parking is always a thing that either neighbors or even commission has. So is there any other questions for the applicant? Is there anyone in the audience that needs to come to the podium? Okay.
I'll make a move to approve the application on the basis the project meets the regulations and guidelines of the Urban Design Overlay District zoning ordinance as referenced in section C and D of the staff report.
I'll second.
All right, it's passed.
Thank you.
All right, next item here, we have UDCA-25-00014 at 908 Northwest 23rd Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This application is part and parcel of the one you just heard. It's right next door to the last project at 908 Northwest 23rd Street on the south side of 23rd, just west of Francis. It's basically the same, essentially the same review process, essentially the same type of structure we're dealing with. It was originally built as a single-family structure in 1918. It's been substantially modified at the front of the building when it was converted to commercial use, probably sometime in the 50s or 60s. And then additionally, the engineering report you saw on the last project is the same as for this one, and the pictures that are in that report document some of the structural deficiencies that are impacting that particular structure. And again, because of the modifications that have been made to the structure, we feel that it's not a significant architectural or historical resource, and therefore we've recommended approval of the demolition of this structure to the commission, and we're prepared to respond to any questions the commission may have.
Okay. Mark, I assume you're the applicant?
Yes.
Okay.
Mark Sitzow, Johnson Associates, 20 Sheridan Avenue. Nothing to add, just happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I assume there's no one else in the crowd. Do we have any questions for staff or the applicant?
No, but I have a comment that I think that breeze block is really pretty, and maybe
If
be
when we're
used on
demoing
some
it,
projects
you want to
someday.
swing by, I'm sure we can put it to good use somewhere. Make a great patio.
we actually used that and had to source it for the class and in. Yeah.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the application on the basis that the project meets the regulations and guidelines of the Urban Design Overlay District zoning ordinance, as referenced in section C and D of the staff report.
Okay. All right, it has been approved. On to the next item, UDCA-25-00015 at 417 Northwest 23rd Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This application is for a commercial renovation of an existing structure on the north side of Northwest 23rd Street at 417 Northwest 23rd, located between North Hudson and North Walker. It's just 2 doors down from the Tower Theater to get you your bearings where this project is. This building is owned by the OKC Community Church, which also happens to own the building and the property next door to this on the west between this suite and the Tower Theater. They're proposing to expand their church operations and functions into this building next door, and as part of that, They've proposed to renovate the front facade facing Northwest 23rd Street, and most notably, the inclusion of that demolition or that renovation is the removal of this massive wooden canopy that was probably built in the 50s, we think, based on our research. And then additionally, they are, if you can't really see it that well, but there's a glass storefront on this building that is has two angled entry doors, one at each end of the facade, and those entry doors do abut some stone veneer facades on both ends. And initially, when we got this application, staff was pretty concerned about that modification, and because that was kind of a historic theme of the day in building commercial buildings at that time. However, after reviewing it against the design guidelines and the other applicable provisions of the Building Conservation and Rehabilitation Guidelines, we came to the conclusion that because they are proposing to make this building look a lot more like the building it sits next to, and I don't have those images, I don't know, can you show those, Katie? We feel that it's appropriate to allow this renovation to proceed as it's been designed and presented to you, and therefore we are prepared to recommend approval of this application, and we are available for any questions the commission may have.
I have a question. Why do you want to get rid of that unique canopy structure?
Hi there. My name is Colin Fleck. I'm with Bacchus Payne Architects. Why do we want to get rid of it? Maybe a little bit subjective. There was the desire by the church to relate more to their existing structure, thus making it more visible for their entire operation there. And so when we began discussing what it was that they were looking for there, we immediately just started thinking, okay, how do we fit in the context of what's there? Is it possible to reuse that? And we pretty quickly determined that it was not desirable to keep that and didn't align with their vision for this property. From a scale perspective, they're looking to transform the storefront section into more of a coffee shop. And so they wanted to bring the scale down, bring canopies that are a little bit lower. Eventually would like to have some streetscape furniture, encourage pedestrian access, be a little bit more inviting. Felt counter to what's there. That's a subjective thing, but that's the thinking behind it.
My opinion is that it's actually a unique feature of 23rd Street. And when you get into the development of long swaths of shopping centers, of which I have done, when you start to make it all look so similar, which I have done, it does take away. And for me, like when I drive down 23rd Street, that canopy always pulls my eye right to it. Maybe it needs reconstruction, maybe it can't exist, but it is just my opinion that it's a beautiful aspect of that street. That's it.
Yeah. Appreciate the thought.
Do you have any other comments you want to make on the project, just in general for us? No worries if not.
I don't think so. The owner's here as well to answer any other questions you may have about the spirit of the project or what they're looking to do.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
Would there be opportunity, like an alternative to updating that awning to something, I don't know, cooler? I don't know. I get your point, you know, and it does draw your eye when you drive down the street, and so, I mean, could it be, you know, maybe there's an alternative that you guys could look at for that potentially, or no? Have you not thought about, you know?
We certainly thought about it. I mean, when we went through our design process, that was the first question was, is this worth keeping and what could we do with it? And I don't think our design team felt that we could work very well with it. We did consider it though, I hope you know. It was it's where we started.
Yeah.
What can we redo?
Yeah, I definitely can see it. I do know what Amy said is, I do remember it, notice it. I also do think of like, I wish something went in there, is what I've always thought. And I can see there's sort of like substantial investment to do this. I mean, tearing it all apart, you're basically, it's a whole new face.
That's right.
Which is awesome. I do get the continuity. I do see that in the design of this, of how it would look. I like keeping the street active. I think leaning into that will be, you guys probably know, it'll be embraced. Do you foresee any other, as you dig into that, do you know what you're digging into, or are you gonna find out?
No, we've done demolition of the interior to be able to expose the structural elements, and there are some cantilever beams that extend in and are braced to some old bowstring trusses. A lot of that can actually come off if this canopy comes off, which frees us up on the inside to have a little bit more height in the exposed front area. So we do know what we're getting into for the most part, because we can see it.
Awesome, okay. Yeah, I don't have any other comments. If there's no other questions or anything, if we want to make a motion.
I'll put forward a motion to approve the application on the basis that the project meets the regulations and guidelines of the Urban Design Overlay District zoning ordinance as referenced in section C and D of the staff report.
I'll second.
All right, it's been approved.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, we have SPUD-1737 at 2944 Southwest 8th Street.
Good afternoon, Laura Griggs, Planning Department. None of you have seen this before. The last time this property was rezoned, we still had the Riverfront Design Committee in place, and so it went before them. At that time, it was rezoned to a glamping facility, which was the first time I'd ever heard that terminology. Unfortunately, that project never was realized. And so we have a new SPUD that has been submitted, and it is before you to make a recommendation to the Planning Commission, actually at their meeting tomorrow afternoon. So this originally was on your agenda for June, and so normally we don't cut it that close, but we unfortunately had to delay it because we didn't have quorum. So this particular area, and I'll just kind of, if you're not familiar with it, this property is vacant right now. It definitely needed mowing while I was out there. It is directly across the street from the trail, directly across the street from the river, and there is an access on the corner across the street. So anything that goes here has really easy access to get to the trail and go east and west. It is adjacent to, so we have, this is where you can see all the trail and stuff. It is in a residential neighborhood. Obviously, we don't have curb and gutters, we don't have sidewalks out there, so it is more rural feel when you get out there. And as you're looking at all these pictures, you're not actually seeing any other houses, but we do have some in the area. Immediately across the street to the south, we have residential, and then this surrounds a residential property. If I'm not mistaken, it was on council recently for being declared dilapidated. And there is another residential structure that's on the east side of it. So we have an area that could definitely benefit from the improvements that would be made because we will require sidewalks, and we will end up with some density on this time. And obviously the city was working on something too, but this is the gate that's in the corner. So there's easy access for people because there's an opening. You can get there on your bike or you can walk through it to get to the trail. So this is the house that's being declared dilapidated, and this is one that was recently renovated that's adjacent on the east that is occupied because there were cars in the driveway, and then this is the one across the street to the south. So we'll just kind of land on this one right here. So this particular piece of property is now being proposed for a SPUD that actually has some more uses proposed. Staff really didn't have any issue with any of the uses proposed at all. Some of the uses in River are shown to be conditional uses, but when we established the riverfront, the Scenic River Overlay Design District back in 2007, we didn't create our own conditions. So I honestly don't know why we set it up that way. So from that perspective, I did not really have an issue with supporting those uses, especially the uses that they are, because they're low-impact uses. They're neighborhood-oriented uses like libraries and community centers. One of the things, there were some setback issues. Early on, we reached out and said, we need to change some of these because I was more concerned about setbacks from the perimeter and the road and everything. And so we ended up with 5 foot from Southwest 9th Street, 10 foot, well, wait a minute, sorry. Originally, they are requesting 5 foot, and then the original SPUD, we had a 10 foot from Southwest 9th Street. And in Stockyard River District, buildings are required to be at or close to the street right-of-way, which is in fact, has a maximum and not a minimum setback. So the conceptual site plan does not include setback references, so it's kind of difficult to reference the setback shown. And I'm sure we have a large drawing that is going to be shown to you by the applicant, so that will be very helpful to look at. But the layout shown appears to bring components of the development out toward the street, which would be in keeping with what SRODD has written in our regulations. They're specifying that site-proof screening should not be required. And in discussing with them, my mind immediately jumps to dumpsters and that kind of thing where you want site-proof screening, but their mind jumps to a lot of times items that go to the Planning Commission, they require screening from adjacent uses. And in River, we actually have something that says, no, we don't want to screen between uses because we want them all to work together. So from that perspective, I didn't really have any issue once they explained that to me, because as I stated, we don't feel that fencing the perimeter is appropriate. So staff is actually recommending approval with some minor revisions. One is under screening and fencing that it get added per SRODD regulations and guidelines, site-proof screening / opaque fencing around the perimeter of the development shall not be permitted. And I kind of think that was important because if this continues on and another body says, oh, we want to I wanted it to be in there, that we really don't want that to happen. For dumpsters, and they're not planning on it, if utilized, commercial dumpsters shall comply with applicable screening and separation regulations. And we also are requesting that the MDS be revised to consistently reference subject to review and approval of a certificate of approval by the Urban Design Commission where applicable. So with that, if you don't have any questions for me, we can get the large site plan up that you could actually see, since it is on a big piece of foam core.
Good afternoon, Mark Sitzow, Johnson & Associates, 20 Sheridan Avenue. Laura did a pretty great job summing it up, and I'm going to start with, we have no objections to any of the conditions that Laura stated. We're in agreement, and we'll make those revisions after Planning Commission comes up with whatever revisions they may have at tomorrow's hearing. So the intent is really to build a pocket community inside of this neighborhood. If you look at the aerial that was on the screen, there's two existing homes across the street. It's almost like a storage facility. There's a shipping container out there and other accessory buildings that are just kind of up on skids in the front yard. So we think on this part of the river, this could be a desirable product. The goal here is to offer a housing option for folks coming to the fairgrounds and folks coming to the stockyards. when they come in with crews and farm hands and other things that are not looking to stay in hotels, that have a kitchen because they're staying for a longer period of time. So that's a portion of what this is. The goal, though, is to set this up that it could be sold as individual homes. And so all of that is being taken care of on the engineering side, and we'll get through that when we get to platting. Laura brought up the commercial piece. We have asked for commercial uses. We were very restrictive on where that commercial could go and the square footage. So it is limited to these beige units that are on the north. The trails on the river are right there, so the hope is as time goes by, some of these units could be live work, and so you could see a bicycle shop or even a very small type of convenience store, so that the folks here, you know, bread, candy, what have you, can use that, but also get some visibility from the river and the folks that are using the trails. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We're excited about the project. We think this is a much better use for the property than the Airstream glamping use, given that, you know, it is in a neighborhood, even though the northern portion is quite vacant.
I'm glad to see development happening there, neighborhoods. You know, when you say neighborhoods, I kind of crack my knuckles and start thinking more about what we could do as a city. I love the fact that we have the mixed use on the outskirts of the micro neighborhood. I think that's, you know, in line with how we want to see density sort of grow in our city. I'm interested to know if your client may have any, in the future, ideas to develop in and around this space also, because, you know, when you build neighborhoods at the core of existing neighborhoods, those around it tend to sort of naturally transition out of the neighborhood life cycle. They're transitioning out. And so of course, that's speculative, obviously,
Sure.
but as we continue to see the city grow, I think that's something that we're all interested in,
Right.
that these types of developments to continue. Yep.
The one thing I would say, and it doesn't show up on this map because of how we show the river area, the zoning in this area, in this neighborhood, ranges from R1 to I2. And you don't normally see that within a neighborhood. There's been a lot of industrial zoning to the south and to the east. So this is a hodgepodge. And so there are owner-occupied houses, there's rental houses, and there's vacant lots. So I think this is a neighborhood that this could potentially really help, maybe spur something on, might start at the north and work its way to the south, maybe stop that trend to go industrial within the neighborhood.
Would we be dealing with brownfield situations if we have industrial there? Would there be remediation in the area? This has nothing to do with, you know,
Well, there are auto salvage uses, obviously out along the perimeter. There's some to the south, so obviously in that situations, there potentially are brownfield areas. Some of the other industrial zoning can also be on some vacant land. So it depends on what street you're looking at and where. So we've had very few things in the 10 years I've been back that have happened in this neighborhood.
Yeah, if you were to zoom out just a little bit from that aerial, what you'd see is a lot of industrials Laura mentioned, but you'll also see I-44 on the edge of that. So I think in recent years, you've seen a billboard get approved. You've seen, I think, a smaller storage facility. And so it is a bit of a awkward, I guess, land use typology, given that you've got I-44 right there, and then May. And this is a part of town that, unfortunately, over decades of neglect and disinvestment, turned storage and industrial. So the hope is that a use like this that's catering a bit toward the passerby and a traveler will help establish a market for either full-time rental, full-time sale, to help stabilize the neighborhood. But we think that we're doing it in a way that promotes good urban design and isn't necessarily out of character with the neighborhood.
Several years ago, there was a SPUD that came in. SRODD goes just south of Southwest 15th, and SPUD came in to expand an existing auto salvage use down there because they had done it, and there was a code enforcement case. And luckily, we opposed it. It did not happen. And so we've been trying to hold the line about some things, but obviously, too, as you can tell, we're not that far from Stockyard City, which is in the county, and we have no jurisdiction. But if you think about uses that are around Stockyard City, you end up with, there's a lot of industrial stuff. There's the city's bus big facility is just across the street here. So there's a lot going on.
So I love this. And so the code, or for the zoning for the lodging accommodations and commercial lodging, my guess is that would allow you to turn this into kind of a hotel area, which therefore you could rent out, which I think is great. One issue with that potentially is this will actually help the area have a higher and better use. But in 5 years, as it develops, this is a permanent zoning for that. We also can't get you can't get away from that, and that actually could hurt it, because therefore, if you have a hotel area, but in single-family homes set up there, people may not want to move there because you can never get rid of the zoning. So I would be curious if you guys would put a condition of like a 5-year revisit for Urban Design Commission to review the spot.
Yeah, so I think one thing on the uses that's important, this isn't going to be zoned as a hotel. This is zoned, I mean, it's the R2 category. There'll be single family that will have special exemptions for home sharing, right? And so those, through Board of Adjustment, have a clock on them for how long they can be a home sharing unit. The neighborhood and the surrounding owners get noticed every time that is up for reapproval. And if there are issues with that, if neighbors are complaining, there's parties, what have you, the Board of Adjustment can either amend the conditions or they can deny this, the home sharing permit. So this isn't a hotel from a land use standpoint. It's a neighborhood that I think we're just being upfront. We're going to seek home sharing allowances up until a point that it's not needed.
Okay. I think you could find a way to actually turn it into a single hotel, actually per code, potentially, with that type of zoning, or with lodging accommodations and commercial. Because if that was removed from it, then you could just do the typical home sharing route through Board of Adjustment, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we are not considering it, or we're not treating it like a hotel. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily opposed to withdrawing it or removing that land use from it. I think we probably just want to think about that.
Well,
and see if
let me
there's
just
an
say,
issue.
we had another case that was in downtown that you weren't working on it. That came in and was showing individual prefab buildings. And it ended up being classified as the hotel one, the commercial lodging, even though they were individual units like this, and they were one-story units. And that was based on consultation with the city attorney's office, because we were trying to figure out, is this an Airbnb? Is this ADUs? What is this? And so it landed on its commercial lodging. That's how they were going to treat it. And so I didn't think anything of it when I saw that, and that's one of the uses, because we had just gone through that exercise in downtown with that use unit can be used for those types of uses.
Correct.
So I was just going to throw that out.
With that said, you wouldn't need a home sharing permit. You would use your lodging accommodations and commercial lodging, and you can basically just get a business license, and you basically, for the life of the property, no one can stop it, if that makes sense. If that was used by a developer at the bottom.
So I guess two things. Currently, it's zoned to allow Airstream trailers as an Airbnb in perpetuity. So I think a neighborhood-style hotel is a far better use than what's already there today that was recently approved. We are intending, though, that this be platted as fee simple lots so that they can potentially be sold in an exit should this not work. And if we go that route, then we cannot qualify as a hotel, because we have, whatever the number is, 30 single-family homes that are platted individually. So I think that's where it would be
The difference,
different.
yeah.
But we'd have to
Would agree.
talk with the city attorney. I don't think we could do a hotel on 30 different platted lots.
Yeah, that other one was one parcel that was going to have 6 individual buildings on it.
Okay.
There's inherent risk when you go into a neighborhood and you're the first one doing something. And so it's important to have the backup strategy to pivot and do something else if they can't gain traction. This allows them to essentially have built for sale single-family homes that are, 2 bedrooms and hopefully somewhat more affordable than you're seeing in other neighborhoods.
Okay.
I was just going to add that, this is different from a CA. We don't have to fix everything right now. You all are making a recommendation to Planning Commission. You can include that comment about the concern regarding the lodging accommodation, commercial lodging, as part of that recommendation, and then the applicant can continue to work toward resolving that with staff, with the city attorney's office.
What y'all just shared there, I don't know if it would, I don't know how the city would perceive it exactly, but it sounds like it wouldn't specifically work for these individual homes, so I'm not concerned with it if y'all say that. So I don't have any other questions or comments. Sorry. Do we have a motion?
I don't know if there's anybody else here that wanted to speak. I don't know the people in the back row,
Okay.
so you might ask.
Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak on this?
Thank you.
Does anyone have a motion?
Do we need to, go ahead.
We're looking to make some type of a recommendation to the Planning Commission on, and staff has some recommended conditions. So you can, if you agree, you can literally just read what we've got written for you.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'd like to provide a recommendation of approval to the Planning Commission on the basis that the project complies with the intent of the SRODD Scenic River Overlay Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in the Section D of the staff report, with the conditions that the SPUD be revised as follows. A, with screening and fencing per the SRODD regulation and guidelines, site-proof screening and opaque fencing around the perimeter of the development shall not be permitted. B, that dumpsters, if utilized, commercial dumpsters shall comply with applicable screening and separation regulations. And C, the MDS shall be revised to consistently reference, subject to review and approval of the certificate of approval by the Urban Design Commission where applicable.
I'll second.
Okay, item is passed.
Thank you.
Next item is SPUD -1748 at 2108 Southwest 11th Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an application for SPUD 01748 at 2108 Southwest 11th Street in the Stockyard City Transitional District and partially in the Scenic River Overlay District. And that's part and parcel of the application before you today. In addition to the SPUD, the applicant is requesting, at our behest, to rezone the one lot, which is Lot 5, on the east end of the lots that are facing north-southwest 11th Street, to rezone that lot from the SRODD overlay to the SYT overlay. Staff has reviewed the application submitted to us by the applicant for the SPUD, and in particular their master design statement, the MDS. We provided them with some initial comments, and we initially had some concerns about some of the uses that they were requesting to be included as permitted uses in this SPUD. And they agreed to remove, I think, 2 or 3 that we had objections to before we brought this item before you. However, we did also request that the use 8300.21, which is automotive and equipment storage, that use also be eliminated from the permitted uses in this SPUD. The reason for that is that particular definition for that use allows a variety of uses, including truck storage and taxi storage and all kinds of other vehicular storage, boat yards, whatever. And it would be occurring directly across the street from this residential neighborhood that is on the north side of Southwest 11th Street, directly across the street. Now, we recognize the fact that there's been a 8-foot tall concrete block screen wall on the north side of this property facing that residential neighborhood for quite some time. But even behind a screen wall that is that size, we remain concerned about allowing that type of use. And therefore, we feel it's inappropriate to have that particular type of use in association with this particular residential neighborhood directly across the street. And that's particularly of a concern with us when they've also requested to have an access allowed on the north side of the project out onto Southwest 11th Street, which has never existed before. So it will be a new access out onto 11th Street. So in addition to enhancing or intensifying the land use on this particular site, you'll also be introducing new traffic onto Southwest 11th Street directly across the street from the residential uses that line the north side of the street. In the existing SPUD that is on this site, which is, I think, 00185, there is already a requirement in that existing SPUD that says access may be taken from Exchange, or no, they're asking that it's taken from Exchange and Southwest 11th. However, the existing SPUD only allows access from the alley on the south, and then that's through the property that faces Exchange. And because we're intensifying the use, staff does not believe there's any reason at this time to introduce a new driveway access to the north onto Southwest 11th Street. Another item that we came across when reviewing the existing SPUD was that there's a requirement for landscaping in that SPUD. That's SPUD 183, excuse me, for trees to be planted along Southwest 11th Street at 30 feet on center. There's evidence in this picture here, on the picture on the right, that they made an attempt, or an attempt was made to comply with that standard, but you can also see on the eastern side of the site, in the picture on the left, that those trees on the the eastern side of the property along 11th Street never got planted, or if they did, they subsequently died and were removed. And again, with respect to the fact that we are proposing, or the applicant is proposing that the land use in this property be intensified directly across the street from single-family residential uses, we feel it's appropriate at this time, and that particular landscaping requirement should be applied again and hopefully complied with this time. So with those three items, the land use being modified, the access being changed to Exchange Avenue only, and the landscape standards being modified to include street trees at 30 feet on center along Southwest 11th Street, staff is recommending approval of this SPUD to the commission, and we're prepared to respond to any questions the commission may have. I will say that just like Laura's SPUD, which you heard just before this item, this is scheduled to go before the Planning Commission at their meeting tomorrow. So we'll need to convey to the commission whatever conditions of approval this commission feels are appropriate.
So we're doing a tag team today? So, I've actually never done this, and I just wanted to speak to, this is actually the first time that I have supported taking something out of River and putting it in another design district. And part of that is because back in 2009, there was a spud that came in on the lot that was in River. And we recommended denial of that, and it got approved. So with the approval of that, to me, the council set the tone for this is what we think is appropriate on that piece of property. So with that action, it didn't make sense to keep it in River because that was not a use that River approved. And the fact that this block is so broken up in both of our districts, and that doesn't make sense either. It needs to be consistent. So across the street is all in River. So from that perspective, I provided some information under 5 previous actions, but as I said, you've never seen one of these before. I also provided information about how far away from the river this is. You can't see it from the river, you can't see the river from here. So is it appropriate to leave it in River? And I didn't feel that it was, which is why I'm recommending one of your conditions be take it out of River and put it in SYT. So I don't know if you have any questions about that perspective since you've never heard it from us before. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, David Box, 525 Northwest 11th, here on behalf of the applicant. So, a couple things. We agree with most of what staff has as conditions. I actually view this as more of a down zone in that the spud that's on site now, spud 185, only allows one use, and that one use is outdoor storage of truck parts and accessories. That's a massively intensive use across from residential. The reason for our spud is we want to build a building and have everything indoors. The way the spud is written, we can't do that. We're not allowed to build a building. We're only allowed to store all of this junk outside. So we actually view it as a better way to develop the site than what's there now. So as it relates to the conditions, we agree with condition 1, we can remove that use. We agree with, I guess it's A. We agree with C on the landscaping. We agree with D. On B, we do need the access from Exchange, but we're willing to commit that it'll be a gated access and a site-proof fence along 11th. Because that building's going to be there, the building will exist with an opportunity to have an additional tenant in there that would be different from the main operator, which fronts on Exchange. And so that tenant would need the ability to access from 11th. Now, again, we'll commit that it's gated. We agreed to the landscaping conditions, so there will be landscaping along that frontage to hopefully, ease any concerns that may exist.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I have this right. So you're requesting that you also can have access from 11th?
Yes.
And staff is recommending only on Exchange?
Right. The reason being, we're building the building. There exists an opportunity to have potentially another tenant within that building. And so if you're going to have that, you would need the ability to access from 11th, because right now it's a single operator that fronts on Exchange. I don't know if you can go to an aerial, but what's behind the building is just a junkyard. We're wanting to build a building to take everything inside. So our proposal is to have no outdoor storage whatsoever. In fact, we don't allow that use unit in our, there you go. What you see are some semi-trailers. And then again, what's allowed would be the outdoor storage of parts.
Are you wanting a secondary tenant that's facing 11th?
Yes.
Is that the intention?
Yes, but behind a site-proof wall and controlled access with a gate. And we're willing to commit that any access would be required to be controlled access through a gate.
I don't have any questions. Does anyone have questions?
Would the gate be closed during, would it be open, let me put it this way, would it be open during business hours for the new business?
But yeah, during hours.
So there would be free-flowing traffic through that gate from 7 to 6 or something like that?
Well, I think free-flowing, considering the size of the building, is probably a bit of a misnomer. It's not a Starbucks coffee shop.
What is the intent of the second tenant? What is the?
It would be an automotive type use, similar to what's on that frontage.
But if we were to approve this, I mean, and the tenant changes, then that still stands. It could be whatever.
Well, the SPUD only allows a certain limited number of uses. If they wanted to do something other than those, they'd have to come back and do a new one.
New one, yeah.
And the neighborhood's just primarily residential use, correct?
Well, I mean, kind of, yes and no. I mean, you have, I mean, that area is a bit of a hodgepodge with houses that are abandoned. To the west, you have other industrial uses. So, I mean, it's an area in transition, perhaps.
Yeah, well, it's almost like another SPUD was approved that's like, oh, kind of like it creeps in because of like allowing access on 11th. Because basically, once you create access on 11th, you might as well put more, might as well industrialize the entire neighborhood, And that's this decision could basically set that precedent because those other things are probably outside of our jurisdiction.
Well, so if you look at what would be the northwest corner of 11th and Young's, that is straight industrial I-2 with no limitations whatsoever. Our frontage, what is shown on that map is mixed garage, straight I-2, no limitations. We're putting it in a SPUD that only allows a very limited number of uses with limitations. And so I get your point, but you have industrial north of 11th, straight I-2, no limitations whatsoever.
So I will comment that there used to be a church on the corner, on that northeast corner, Catholic Charities, and they tore it down. They built a new structure, their women's resource center and sanctuary, and they had a parking lot on 11th, but it is now gone, and all of their parking is from the north now. But the rest of that block, that particular block, is single-family residential. So Catholic Charities goes down that one side, and then across that street, I think that's Young's, isn't it?
Yeah.
You all had seen those individual units, those two-story units that Catholic Charities put in for housing some of the people that are using their facilities across the street.
So if you look, I mean, really at these 6 blocks, you have a transition, and this is sort of in that you have, it is truly mixed. I don't personally see an issue because the limitation on the SPUD is what it is. That you can't just put something else that you're going to do an automotive type thing, and that you would have a gate that would require access with that kind of a language in it. To me, it feels like that makes sense with the other recommendations that are present.
I'm trying to understand the gate, though. If it's open during business hours, what's the point? I'm not questioning the access. It makes sense to me. I'm questioning why the gate. Is there?
Well, I mean, the reality is the gate's there, I think, for overnight security is the main issue.
But there's no benefit to the neighborhood from my perspective. Okay.
I think one other issue potentially is I don't think they're separate parcels. Excuse me, I think they're separate parcels. I don't think it's one tract. So I don't know that zoning legally can landlock a parcel if that north tract flipped. I mean, they are entitled to access when they front a public street.
I mean, I personally prefer that there is access on 11th from a neighborhood perspective. For me, it feels a little bit more like you live there, but you also know that you're in an urban neighborhood. And to me, that makes more sense. I feel a little bit more ominous about a giant wall that has trees, and I don't know what's going on over there from a living perspective.
Yeah, but also once you get access back there, it creates even more accessible to park on the street and bring cars out there because it's very common for mechanic shops to begin to use the neighborhood. And so I get that the zoning may be changing. I just think it's still a neighborhood. So for me, I wouldn't want it to be that way in my neighborhood if I could avoid it, and that's my only comment. So, but I do understand the need, and there isn't any opposition outside of maybe me. There's no one else in the room.
Right. And we can, and notice goes out, and we've received no formal protest for tomorrow's hearing. We can put no street parking. All parking shall be contained within the site. I mean, it's a public street, but we can put that in there as well. I do think the bigger issue is I don't know that we can prohibit access through a SPUD to a tract that otherwise has no access. I mean,
You probably, do you have parking within that site already?
yeah, so when we go and get now, no, it's just an open yard. When we go to get a building permit, we'll have to meet, parking regs.
I don't know that you would need to put no street parking. Your clients that are going to come in, they know they can park inside if they want to. Why wouldn't they? They're going to want to park closer logically to your business that they're walking into.
I don't know that it's really accurate to say that these parcels on the north side of the alley have no access. It's the properties on the north side and the south side are under the same ownership, and the alley's been closed. And the way we viewed this when we analyzed it is we assumed that this new building on the north side was going to be an expansion of the business that is on the part that's facing Exchange. It's already a collision place, and we just assumed it was going to be an expansion of that use. If it's going to be a separate operator that's not part of this operation you see here, then I guess we can understand the need for an access and some exposure on Southwest 11th Street. But I don't think you can access the parcels on the north side of the alley through this property on Exchange under the current conditions. If they were going to sell off these lots on the north side of the alley to somebody else in the future at some point, and then you'd have an issue because they would not have any access. But right now they do.
Well, what I'm saying is, if you look at the county assessor map, they are independent legal lots. It is not one
No, I understand.
tax parcel.
I understand.
And so I don't know that a SPUD, you can landlock, independent lots.
Well, they've given up the access for 30 years, so.
Yeah, so that's a better, this is, I think, before my client took it over, but that aerial shows what used to be there. It was, it was an outdoor junkyard, essentially. We think this is a significantly better way. Of course, when you had outdoor junk, it makes sense not to have access. Here, we think perhaps one access point with now committing to the landscaping. When we go get a building permit, we will be forced to adhere to the landscaping requirement that in the past people got away with whatever they got away with. That won't be the case anymore.
Does anyone have a motion? Well, and as a reminder, so it was, what are the ones that, you basically said of those 4 items, you needed
B.
B.
Yeah, A, C, and D, we agree to the conditions as written.
Okay. So if someone wants to make a motion to exclude or include B, whatever you feel best, and we can, or if we need more discussion, we can discuss as well.
I think the idea that is requested is that B be modified to say that access from B from Exchange Avenue as well as one access point from 11th Street with a gate entry is what is being requested. my understanding. Which I'm okay with. Let's just do it again. I'd like to make a motion to provide a recommendation of approval to the Planning Commission on the basis that the project complies with the intent of the Scenic River Overlay Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in Section D of the staff report, with the condition that the SPUD be revised as follows. A, land uses section I-1 shall be revised to eliminate 8300.21 automotive and equipment storage from the list of allowed uses. B, you might help me with language, but that access shall be from both Exchange Avenue and from a single entry point on 11th Street that will have a gate that is, has locked entry. I don't know. Thank you. I can think of the word, controlled access. C, landscaping, section I-7, landscaping shall be revised to read as follows. The subject parcel shall meet all requirements of the City of Oklahoma City's landscaping ordinance in place of time of the development, and street trees shall be provided along Southwest 11th Street at 30 feet on center. D, Lot 5, Block 8, Stockyards addition shall be removed from the Scenic River Overlay Design District and rezoned to the Stockyard City Transitional Development Overlay District.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It is
Thank
passed.
you. Mark ran out of gas.
Help them out.
All right, administrative approval report. I don't think there's anything we need to do here. If there's any questions, feel free. Comments from planning staff?
No, we don't have anything at this time.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything right now. We will let you all know if we have, do we have a meeting in August? Okay, we have a meeting in August. You'll get a quorum call. So that's all.
Comments from commission? All right, next meeting date is Wednesday, August 27th, 2025.
But you do.
Can't wait.
We're adjourned.
All right.